Okay, so this is take two because take one ended up. And I have to do it again. So this is my workplace. It's called Visovac. It's in National Park Krka. When I started this video at 9 in the morning, I was hoping I'll have some time of peace and quiet to do the video right in 5 minutes, because usually it takes about 25 minutes to tell people history of the island, show them around museum and church. But now it's almost 3:45 p.m. and these are the first moments without tourists on the island. And I'm gonna start with the history. Behind me you can see the monastery. First people who came to the island were the Augustinian monks in 14th century. At that time, island was called Lapis albus. In Latin that means the white rock, because it was a rock, there was no soil, no plants, nothing. It was great for the Augustinians because they were hermits, and they have built here the first church and the monastery, but they stayed for a short period of time until the 15th century, when they left because of constant Turkish attacks. In the same time, for the same reasons, part of the Franciscan monks were leaving Bosnia. So 5 years after Augustinians left, Franciscans came here in 1445. Turks were still around, they were here for more than 300 years, but Franciscans were tougher than Augustinians, and they stayed until the 17th century, when the Venetians were fighting Turks, and they, let's say, persuaded Franciscans to leave the island for their own safety. Monks did, and they were in exile in city Šibenik for 25 years. During that time, monastery and the church were burnt by the Venetians, so Turks couldn't use it, because in the past River Krka was important merchants route, and there were 7 fortresses on river. People had to pay taxes for everything they were bringing on boats and so on. Anyway, in 1672, Turkish Sultan Mehmed IV gave a document that you can see in the museum, with which he allowed the Franciscans to come back on the island, and since then until today Franciscans are here all the time. For the last 500 years, with that one interruption, Franciscan novices from the province come to the island, to the monastery, and they have to spend 1 year. In that time they learn how to live like Franciscans, and they decide, do they want to become one? So there are always older monks who teach them. Number of novices varies from generation to generation. And from 15th century on, all the soil, all the earth you see on the island was brought by boats. So during the time, island got bigger for 1/5. This is the document that I mentioned from Turkish Sultan. Here on the wall is a piece of wood, a stick, with big and small letters carved in, and also numbers on the side. I like to call it the first laptop, because Franciscans used it in the past when they would go to the villages around to teach people how to read and write. And just like laptop these days, that was the most convenient thing to carry around when you're going from village to village on foot or with a horse and so on. And they had different and maybe better educational methods at that time, so when someone didn't pay attention, he could get clapped. Franciscan library on the island, it's full of rare and valuable books. Here are Aesop's Fables, printed in 1487. That means that's one of the first printed books in the world, because Gutenberg invented printing machine just a couple of years earlier. There are just 3 copies left of this book in the whole world. This is of course not the original. Original is kept in the monastery library. All the books printed before 1500 are called incunabulas, and there are 7 books like that in monastery library. a large number for a small monastery and island like this. The church is called Our Lady of Angels. It was built in 15th century. It looks like today since 17. It's different than any other Catholic church because it has two main altars. Older Catholic churches can have auxiliary altars just like this one, but they always have one main altar. So the altar on the right, altar of Lady of Visovac, was main and only when the church was smaller. When they were making it bigger in 17th century, they couldn't do it equally on both sides, so they could make it bigger only on the left side, and then because of symmetry they have put another main altar, altar of Saint Cross. Also unusual in the church are the organs above the main altars, because usually organs are above the door and choir should be over there. Behind the church there are two nice bushes of rosemary and lavender, and I like to tell tourists to spread their arms and go like this and smell their arms, their hands, especially if they are not from Mediterranean. And for the end I tell them a story about this water cistern. It was built in 1755 for collecting rain. What a lot of people ask is, why do they collect rain, the monks, when there's a nice big lake around us? Answer would be, you can drink water from the lake even today. It's clean and drinkable, but it's also very hard, and if you drink it for a long period of time, sooner or later you'll get kidney stones. That's why I drink beer, but monks, they collect rain. Postscriptum. I can see question marks. Why am I bald? It's because of the football game. I said in '98, first time we beat French people, I'll shave my head. I waited 24 years.